When most people open Wikipedia, they're looking for answers to questions. That might not be the best way to go about it. Instead, when I use Wikipedia, I'm looking for vocabulary, hypotheses, and sources. Let me show you what I mean with an example. So let's imagine that we're trying to learn about something we have no knowledge of whatsoever. Let's say I want to learn something about the Bronze Age collapse. This is something that I'm not familiar with, so let's create a new note and I'll show you how I use Wikipedia to get started in the investigative process. So we'll begin, we'll create a new note, we'll call this Bronze Age collapse, and we will make this a concept. Navigating to Wikipedia here, we have a search bar, and let's just put in Bronze Age collapse. I guess late Bronze Age collapse. There we go. Now, there are a few things that I'm looking for here. Obviously, if we just want an overview, we could just read the article. All right, we say the late Bronze Age collapse is a period of societal collapse in the Mediterranean basin during the late 13th to early 12th century BC. That could be an answer to a question, right? If we want to know what is the Bronze Age collapse, that is a starting point, right? That could be the intuition that we begin our investigation with. But there's so much more we can get out of this page. First of all, we tend not to want to cite Wikipedia as a source, right? Wikipedia is an encyclopedia. It is a summary of other people's knowledge, and as such, this is a secondary source at best. Generally, what we want to cite is primary sources, right? The work of the actual scholars that discovered this information. So I'll show you how to find that and other useful information from this page. One of the most useful ways to take advantage of a Wikipedia article is to learn some of the language associated with a topic. It is really hard to do any kind of literature search without having a sense of the vocabulary involved. So let's go through this. We've got some terminology we want to look at, right? Bronze Age, we want to be clear on what that is. So one thing that I could do is go into our note here. First of all, let's copy this Wikipedia link. The next thing we can do is start identifying some of our vocabulary terms. Bronze Age, we want that. So we'll say here, Bronze Age. Palace economy. Disintegrated. So what is palace economy? That's a term I'm not familiar with that we should probably have. And it turned into the Greek Dark Ages, which I'm assuming, yeah, this is way, way before the medieval Dark Ages. So we'll do Greek Dark Ages. The Hittite Empire collapsed while others survived in weakened form. So let's look up the Hittite Empire as well. We have a couple of competing theories here. Climate change, invasion by the Sea Peoples. I have no idea who those are. Ironworking. Maybe we could just say Iron Age. And military chariots. Let's put all of those in. So we'll say climate change, Sea Peoples, let's say Iron Age, and we had military chariots. Right, see, now we have a lot of vocabulary that we can start using to search for more information. Maybe we go to our library or to Google Scholar, and we have a place to begin. Right, so let's make a little note of this is vocabulary. That's the first useful thing that we can pull out of a Wikipedia article. when we have no idea what we're studying. The next thing we can start looking for now that we have some vocabulary is potential competing definitions or explanations. We saw already in this Wikipedia article that there are several possible explanations for the Bronze Age collapse. If we go back into our note, we can add a section now on competing explanations. The other thing we might want to do is just add a definition, right? A starting definition. All right, now we go back to Wikipedia, and we'll say a period of societal collapse between the 13th and 12th century BC around the Mediterranean. Period of societal collapse around the Mediterranean basin, circa 13th to 12th centuries BC. So now we've got a definition we can work with, and we've got some vocabulary. Let's get those competing explanations that I mentioned. First possible explanation: climate change, volcanoes, droughts, disease. We'll make a note here. Climate change, volcanoes, drought. That might fall under climate change, but it might not. Disease. We have sea people invade. Sea peoples invade. So it looks like it's multiple groups. Iron working impacts economy and military strategy and technology change. Strategy and technology change with the introduction of chariots. Chariots with an H. So now we have a starting definition that frames our mindset a little bit. We have a bunch of vocabulary that we can use to start searching for sources. And we've got a bunch of starting points for explanations that we can begin to investigate. Something else that we can get out of Wikipedia is a list of sources that we can use to start our academic investigation. This may not be a full list of all the sources. In fact, it probably isn't, but it will get us started. It'll get us learning more, and it'll give us a sense of what we should be searching for. So let me show you how that works. So let's find a source here. Let's say we're interested in one of the causes for the late Bronze Age collapse, right? We've got a possible causes section, and I'm kind of interested in this ironworking explanation. So we'll click on that, take us down to the section in Wikipedia on ironworking. The context of a technological history that saw the slow spread of ironworking technology from present-day Bulgaria and Romania. So we can find a source here. Now see these superscripts, these are links to sources. So if you hover your mouse over it, you get a citation. If you click on it, you end up jumping down to the references section at the bottom of the page, and we have our full citation here. We can copy this, and we will paste our citation into Google Scholar. So we get this citation, and while we don't have access to a PDF of this citation, we can click on it, and we have a book that we can now go look up in a library. Maybe we can interlibrary loan it. Maybe we can find someone who has a copy, and we can learn more about the role of the Iron Age transition in Europe, and potentially study more about that particular explanation for the Bronze Age collapse. Of course, we can do that with a bunch of other sources, and as we read those sources, we learn more of the vocabulary and we can start searching in library databases or in Google Scholar, some other database of academic journal articles and books that we can then use to learn even more. And this is basically how I use Wikipedia in my research. We found useful vocabulary for a topic that I knew nothing about to begin with. We found multiple hypotheses that compete with or interconnect with each other. We found a list of primary sources that we can use, and we have a much better sense of where to move our investigation next to continue learning about this topic. And this, I think, is the most valuable way to use Wikipedia for this type of research, right? It's not a destination or an answer on its own. This is going to be the starting point of an investigation. Wikipedia is at its most valuable when it helps you ask better questions because you know the language and some of the concepts involved, and it helps you find better sources to start justifying your own answer. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, please consider subscribing. Each week we explore new questions, build new notes, and make the process of learning visible. Remember, knowledge isn't found all at once. It's built one question at a time.